In this update, we've got the remnants of Tropical Storm Ophelia going to bring some flooding rains to parts of the Northeast. And we've got two cold fronts heading in the next week. And by the end of the week, it's going to feel a lot more like fall. So let's take a look at the setup going forward. And yeah, we are still dealing with the remnants of what was Tropical Storm Ophelia. Just really won't go anywhere off the East Coast. At the same time, we've got little disturbances going to be coming in out of Ohio. That's going to be stalling out over portions of New Jersey as well as into New York City. Those areas are going to get pounded later on tonight into tomorrow with definitely some flooding rains. But you can see it's pretty high and dry for the rest of the country. And that's because we've got a dominating ridge of high pressure. We've got southeast winds pulling up all those well above average temperature anomalies across a good part of the lower 48. The only cooler air in town is really the extreme portions of the Pacific Northwest. So we're going to be still dealing with this over the next couple of days into the weekend. But next week, and as we get deeper into the week, there's definitely going to be some big changes in store. So if you are new to the channel and like detailed weather breakdowns, hit the subscribe button and you're in. You get all my daily content on this channel. And I would love to reach 200,000 subscribers by the end of the month. And you can definitely help me get there by subscribing to the channel and following all my daily content. So let's take a look at the setup going forward. And here is later on tonight, we do in fact have that slight risk for excessive rainfall in and around the Philadelphia region, Trenton, those areas into Allentown, into the New York City region. Those areas could really get hard with very heavy rain. We've got rain probabilities of 2 inches per hour. That's what the atmosphere is telling us. It could have the potential to rain in that a length amount of time frame, and that goes into tomorrow as well. We have the similar same area because this area, this pocket of energy is really confined, but if you're underneath that, we're going to be definitely going to be hit hard with some very heavy rainfall, and definitely concerned about flash flooding that's going to be impacting these regions over the next 48 hours. So here's some of the setup going forward on the latest high resolution guidance, and this is definitely concerning, guys. You can see it's just a very small pocket of area, but yeah, look at the amounts showing up on the map of 7 inches could unfold across portions of New York City into Brentwood. Also about another 7 inches, Waterbury about another 5 to 6 inches. All these areas could hit 4 to 8 inches of rain just over the next 36 to 48 hours. Even Providence could pick up another 2 to 3 inches of rainfall. And here's the latest, the NAM 3K kind of implies the same thing. So yeah, this whole area is definitely going to get hard. That's why we do have that slight risk. In fact, I'd be surprised if it actually bumped it up to a moderate risk. Definitely an area by high alert for significant flooding across these regions. The draining is just not as good as you have, like areas in the south. So you get an inch of rain in an hour. That causes a lot more flooding than it does areas that has a lot more drainage. So this is definitely concerning to have these amounts in a short amount of time, really anywhere, but much less in and around the New York City region. And a lot of this could fall in the nighttime hour going into tomorrow time frame. So just be on high alert for flash flooding, and definitely do not cross a road that you can't see the bottom. It only really takes 6 inches to elevate your vehicle and send it downstream. So this is a dangerous situation that could unfold over the next 36 hours. And yeah, like I mentioned, for the rest of the country, we're going to be dealing with just a ridge of dome of high pressure. The endless summer looks to continue at least for a couple of days. It definitely doesn't feel like fall for a lot of places out there, unless you live in the Pacific Northwest, where you're getting that chilly rain, especially along the coastal regions. Not so much on the interior regions, but definitely along the coast. You're getting definitely some chillier, drizzly, just rain, almost on a daily basis across those regions, and pretty chilly as well. And yeah, like by the time we head into Monday, that system finally moves out for the Northeast, and again, with a lot of sinking air across much of the region, there's just not much happening really until about Wednesday. So the breakdown Over the next 5 days, you've got the cool pocket of energy draped across the west coast that pulls that cooler than average anomalies, especially highlighted over the Pacific Northwest and much of California, Nevada, into the Arizona region, into Utah, those areas, into Idaho. But for the rest of the country, you're talking 2/3 central, eastern 2/3 of the U.S., especially along the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes region. Those areas are going to be well above average, nothing even like what you typically see, 20 to 25 degrees above average. Places in Wisconsin could be in the lower 80s. That's definitely very warm for this time of year, but we do see subtle changes. So by the time we head into Wednesday, I think that's going to be our first initial push. This is the first cold front, and we got a reinforcing, likely stronger cold front that's going to be trailing behind this one. So this system, here's the jet stream, takes a pretty significant dip coming in out of the Aleutian Islands. That drags in that colder air, and that drags in some instability as well, and that's going to be producing some heavier rains where they definitely need it in those areas, into places like into Oklahoma, into parts of Texas region. And you can see the cold air continue to press southbound. So these areas that are experiencing the 10 to 15 degrees above average temperatures now will at least cool back to, I would actually say, normal and drop 15 degrees. But normal is going to feel nice after you've been well above in the high, middle 90s, and you can get some 80s, back in the picture by the time we head into that Wednesday time frame, as you're going to be seeing that first initial push of colder air pushing further south. And that's definitely going to bring some much needed rain along with it. So it definitely appears the system does slow down. So that's actually a good thing for these areas that desperately need the rain, because when it slows, obviously you have a lot more instability and you have a longer probability of heavier rain over the same areas, which they desperately need across a good part of Oklahoma and definitely a good part of Texas. So this is going to be a fairly significant system. And I think that's just one of several that could train, over that same area for a couple of days, and definitely leave some much needed precipitation across this region. And we'll be looking for our second shot of cooler air. When's the last time we've seen a 540 line? That's kind of the freezing line heading that out of Canada. That's the secondary push of colder air dropping in from Canada. But you can see what we're dealing with further south. It's going to be ringing out, taking advantage of all that heat that's built up in the upper levels. And man, that's 2 inches per hour rainfall rates, 2.5 inches at times. They could be seeing some very heavy rain across these regions into North Texas, into East Texas, and definitely into portions of South Texas. By the time we head into Wednesday night, heading into that Thursday time frame across this region, it's going to be feeling really comfortable as well. So these are more or less going to be dropping back to average conditions with that first initial pull. You can see the 50s to the north. These are more or less your high temperatures as we head into your Friday time frame, and that continues to push further south. You got 70s showing up on the map for Kansas, into Oklahoma, and even parts of Texas. And then there into Arkansas, we're talking 70s for highs. That's definitely a lot cooler than what you've seen really all summer long, right? So this is your first initial, first fall front of the year, with the coldest temperatures. It's definitely late this year for sure. You typically see it sometime in the middle part of September, so it's definitely late by a couple of weeks. So here's that secondary push, and that's going to be coming out of Canada. So it's going to be having a lot of force with it, and as it pushes further south, we're going to have a ridge that's going to be building back in. So where you're cooler than average right now, that's going to be flipping to well above average as a ridge builds back into parts of Alaska, back into British Columbia, and back into off the west coast. That's going to be setting up the coolness just to the east side of there, and that's going to be dropping the trough and the cooler anomalies back into the middle of the country, and eventually have that force to pull it south. So when it does, that's going to bring a wave of coolness off the northwest flow, and that's going to be dropping east and then south as well. So you're definitely going to be experiencing likely the coolest temperatures, of the season so far in these areas. And what's going to happen is you're going to have the rain on the front side, but a lot of times when you got that secondary push, what trails behind it is a lot of dry air. So it's not only is going to wipe away a lot of the humidity, and it's going to be wiping away, a lot of it's going to be pulling in drier air in the backside. So it's going to feel really nice and comfortable once that cold front moves through, once you have all the instability, and then it's going to be able to clear the atmosphere out behind it. But if you're ahead of the front, you're still dealing with those pockets of heavier rain, and that will be setting up shop again into portions of the Northeast as well as in New England. And you can see where the cold front will be by that time frame, all the way down into South Texas. So yes, you folks even get it down there, as this will clear and actually move out into the Gulf of Mexico. And hey, whenever you see a front pull into the Gulf of Mexico, we'll have to be watching that, because that's what happened, off the coast of Florida. It sat there long enough, and we was able to spin up a little area of low pressure. So these are always areas with cold fronts dropping in from the south. At any time they pull into the Gulf of Mexico or in and along this region, you definitely have to be on the lookout several days later if a low pressure starts to form, typically on the southwest tail of it. So here's what the breakdown could be, by the time we head into that Sunday time frame. So this is about 10 days out, but all signs are there. We've got 2 cold fronts on the table, and if that definitely does come fruition, this is going to be feeling really nice, and going to be feeling a lot more like fall-like temperatures with 30s and 40s, widespread 30s and 40s for north central US, into the Central Plains, back into the upper Midwest, through the Ohio Valley and portions of the Mid-Atlantic. And those 50s would drop all the way down to the southeast as well, even the 50s in good part of Oklahoma, as well as into Kansas, and even 60s dropping as far south as Texas. So that's going to be feeling a really welcome relief of cooler air, but you just have to spend another couple of days with the endless summer. But relief is definitely on the way, and some help with the drought is going to be down the way as well. So we're going to have that initial push. You've got the heavier rain setting up over the next 2 days across a good part of the Northeast, and then you have the more or less the polar jet in and around impacting the Pacific Northwest. And then you have that initial push on Wednesday, and then you have another push on Thursday, and that sets up heavier rains for those several days across Oklahoma and a good part of Texas into Arkansas. And then you will be drying out on the backside for next weekend. So guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely hit the subscribe button, and catch me next update where I protect you before and after the storm.